So there you go. Yeah.
Who've not done this walk. We've now walked halfway across this field, and if you look in the corner over there, there's now a big metal gate that we're not allowed to go through. And it's barriered off. But behind that is a walk.
What's that?
4-6 Commando had made their way down through the River Mew Valley. The River Mew runs just across here. And they had got to the outskirts of Roe when the commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Hardy, called senior officers together to say, right, this is the method of attack for this village. Nobody knew who was holding Roe. They just knew there was a strong German presence which they needed to clear out. And they had been coming down the valley with the Canadians, Fort Garry Horse, Regiment de la Chaudière. Fort Garry Horse was a tank regiment. And so Colonel Hardy met them in the mill and said, right, it's going to involve A troop, B troop, S troop and Y troop. And the other 3 troops were held in reserve. So Keith will now give you a summary of what the plan was. This was a formal plan that Campbell Hardy had drawn up.
which was given to each commander, troop commander, who then relayed it to his sergeants and corporals and others. Anyway, here it goes. Hardy makes clear his plan for the 4th phase. The other phases have been clearing villages on the way, and then for the shorts who were following behind, they consolidated these villages. Anyway, before makes his clear his plan for the 4th phase. It is for A and B troops to occupy the woods on the left bank, just short of Le Hamel, and from there protect the left flank. The artillery from La Zone are to fire a battery concentration onto ROTS road to enable A and B troop to move into position, and then a general artillery concentration on Le Hamel prior to an assault on the latter village. This attack is to be made by S and Y troops. From the northwest between the road and the river, the tanks are to move on the open ground on the right flank and shoot S and Y troops into the village. Once these 2 troops have established a hold on the southern part of their objective, S troop are to proceed with the support of 1 FGH, Fort Garry Horse troop, comprising of 3 Sherman tanks. Each troop has 3 German tanks. 3 Sherman tanks, not German. Lieutenant. One troop is to follow S troop down Chemin du Hamel, the main road through Le Hamel, and assist with house-to-house fighting. S troop are not to venture too far down the road, which meets the main RN 13, which lies without doubt in strong enemy hands. S troop is to then push north and link up with Y troop. Major Lee is chosen to coordinate the attack of S and Y troops. Good, I'll skip that. A patrol is planned consisting of 25 men led by Lieutenant Young of B Troop with tank support. The patrol is to make its way around the northeast side of Rolle and then head down as far as La Villeneuve and threaten the enemy's right flank. It is hoped that the patrol will meet up with A and B troops in La Villeneuve, and that being the final objective. It is expected that when S and Y troops finally join up, they will consolidate and hold the southern half of Roe and Le Hamel. X and Y troops are to be held in reserve, but like all plans, it turns out rather different. Almost as the attack begins, Major Blanchard of the FGH receives a series of jumbled instructions from his HQ, convincing the Major that he is being instructed to send the 1st and 4th and 5th troops back to regimental lines. Already baffled, he tells his 2 troop commanders to take their 6 tanks and carries on the operation with just 3 troops he has left and his 2 HQ tanks. This decision is to have a dire effect on the success of the ensuing battle. Y and S Troop keep their 1 4th Troop tank support. B Troop are allocated the support of 2 troops plus the 2 HQ tanks, which altogether number 11 Shermans. But A Troop, following B Troop and Lieutenant Young's patrol, will receive no tank support at all. So off we go.
Thank you. So if you can imagine that A and B Troop are advancing along this track, and the word bocage means a very high edge, both sides of this track. But Y and S Troop are told to go line abreast across this field, which was actually planted with corn, hence the wayside cornfield. They advanced across here, not knowing what was waiting for them behind these hedges. They could see the church, but they could only see the spire because the hedges were high. As they got to about this point, some of the men from A Troop had been asked to walk along the other side of the hedge to give these guys some covering fire. But as it turned out, at around about this tree, snipers started picking off these men who were giving them cover. And the men over there carried on, and men were falling as we went along this hedge.
Yeah.
There's a story by one of the veterans about what he saw as he went along here.
A.W. Petty of A Troop remembers, unfortunately, when our lads moved out of the cornfield, Y&S Troop, I realised I'd started sending the smoke bombs too late. As I look along the hedge, I see Marine Reuben Garlick Curley, Sergeant James Smith, Sergeant George Rowe, and several others of our troop all laid down in a firing position, motionless, all dead. Later I crawl out to see if Curley is still alive, but he's been shot through the eye. I can see he and others have gone from us. B Troop moves into the village of Rowe along with the tanks, but I'm not involved in this battle anymore.
So that's what happens here. This is the first men to start falling, 4-6 Commando. My dad and Keith's dad are in this line abreast.
And Simon's dad.
And Simon's dad.
Okay.
And they advance and they get to that hedgerow, and none of them are injured. So it is predominantly men from B Troop that have fallen in this field. So when we came here 5 years ago, this field was actually planted with corn, and you could get an image of the men passing through it. Now we've got
Sweet corn, not maize.
yeah, maize. Obviously it's not the same. Now Derek and Gloria, who are with us, when we came the last time, we started from over there and we walked, and as we got along here, Gloria said, "Where do you think Uncle George would have fallen?" And I said to Keith, "Well, where do you think the men would start to fall?" And Keith said, "Well, probably about halfway, probably where this tree was, they'd start picking them off." And as we got to this tree, in the corn was one single poppy growing. And I said,
Bless.
"I think that's Uncle George." And Gloria and Derek were totally overcome by it. And they sadly came this morning hoping that they would see the poppy growing again. Sadly, it is not today, but as you can see in the distance, poppies do grow. But it was the fact that it was just one single poppy, which you'd expect to be quite a lot of them, but there was just one single poppy, and I still believe that was Uncle George saying to Derek, "Remember me," and that was a very poignant moment for all of us to know that that's it. So we're going to walk now back down.
Can I one question? Because you said, I mean, because you had the conversation with my dad from Y Troop that he doesn't remember the waist high cornfield selection.
No.
You said, well, do you remember the wall, George? And I think he said yes, and he said, well, you were on one side, and my dad, your dad, was on the other side.
Yeah.
So would that have been
Well,
right?
well, Y Troop went across the field together.
Right.
So
presumably half and half.
well, I don't know, David, but we just know they advanced. Y Troop were told to advance.
Well, maybe he was more in
I don't know whether they were.
maybe the field, the
They
tree.
advanced towards that hedge,
He used
and
to.
they didn't get their next instruction
Yeah.
to break
Keep
as
the
two
hedge.
troops
Okay.
until we get to the other side.
It
Now,
might have been closer to
Jeff,
this
sorry.
way.
How many people, how many men would there have been just for
roughly each troop
to remind
is 50,
people?
Roughly each troop is about 50 to 55 men. So you're talking of 4 troops. You've got 2 troops that are coming down here, and some of the men said we never saw a waist-high cornfield. A lot of the vets said about the waist-high cornfield, but they happened to be Y&S troop vets. The A and B troop guys said we didn't see any cornfield because there's a hedge about this high.
So
And they
maybe
didn't
on
see
this
anything.
side.
So they're
Yeah,
going down and
But they were
they're
covering
hearing gunshots
I know, only
and not realising and don't know what's going on this
they've
side
been
of the hedge.
consigned to.
So that's about 100 men were going
were
up
roughly
on this
100
field,
men.
and about 100 men
And I say I don't know
were
if they'd be in
going
line or whether
along
they
here.
would be.
No,
they'd
but I meant
probably
in
go
terms of the
waves, they'd be
team,
staggered, yeah. But
So
how none of
to
them
give
were
a
in this field, I
numbers
don't know.
count, yeah?
They're the only men
So you've
who
got
fell,
100
the
men
who actually
coming
protected
down here,
along this hedge,
and you've got about 100 men going over
Because
there.
their comrades
So
were on
it's
this
quite a
side, they had no
considerable
idea
group
their comrades were
for a
falling.
commando troop, number of men out of just over the 300 that made the whole complement.
No, he was an A troop. He was the covering
William Begbie
for
didn't fall in
company from A troop.
William Begbie didn't fall in the field here, did he?
No.
No. We'll show you where William
I think this is
In the street.
Was it the
I've got-
street fighting made then?
What I've got to describe to you is that
We need to read your book again. Can't take it all in.
Tom would have been what was
Once you've
troops
done
Tom.
this, you'll know.
Yes, can look at it again.
Yeah,
I said to
and
them,
you'll see it, so it all comes together.
yeah, I said to my sister, now you've seen it, we'll be able to
A
look
and
at
B
it.
are coming down here. Z and
Z and X troop are in reserve.
held up in reserve. They don't come through until the battle is almost over. If I just say to you that head, imagine there. Beyond that were more cornfields, and then road. And I can't get you into this bit. So we'll go up the road, and then I'll show you the other side of this hedge from the road, and that's where another group of men started to fall. And when they got halfway across the field, they realised they were all exposed, and they ran screaming and making as much noise as they can, which did actually scare the Germans that were in several, they had several, 6 forward defence posts, and they were firing at the boys as they were going. The boys just screamed at them, and it scared them off. They all just said, we're going, there's a lot of these blokes coming, we don't want to be here.
Oh,
So,
they've got green berets.
oh, it's Green Berets!
Commandos.
Green Berets.
We
yeah,
don't want to
that's
deal
not
with
frighten
those.
anybody.
Yeah, we don't want them.
So bearing in mind that we are now early evening. They'd started off at just before 5 o'clock, and so the first men start falling sort of early evening, late afternoon. So as the battle progresses, it's getting darker. So we'll go on through now. Then. So we're going to walk up to the ring. So at this point, some of B troop.
Primarily, a half of B troop are going in this direction, and the other half are going to the other side to meet up with their tank support, which is
Coming up the road into the road. So there's a split of men here. B troop go that way, and B troop go that way, and then A troop following
always
on.
behind.
Nicky's dad, where's Nicky? Your dad is now following on in A troop behind this part of B troop.
And
And S troop is
S troop and Y troop are in the race tie cornfield
so-
still.
they're on the other
They're
side.
still on the
We're-
other
we're
side.
going.
Yeah, they're still over there. Yeah.
It was said after the battle that all the German dead were buried here.
This was an orchard. And
Oh,
all
by
the
the
German,
tide one.
yeah. So after the battle overnight, in the morning, the commandos buried their own men, and I'll show you where they were buried. And the Germans are reported to have, or the villagers, not the Germans, the villagers are reported to have brought all the German bodies and buried them here in this orchard. And I guess because there's a chapel, it had that reason why they were put here to rest. So a lot of the Germans were originally buried here and then subsequently moved off to, I'm not sure which cemetery they're at in France. They're laid to rest somewhere, aren't they? There's some Germans buried in Bayeux, and I think there are some in Ronville. I'm not sure about Hermanville.
There was another one that we used to visit with the guys, which was not far from here.
No, so they were all taken to various cemeteries, and our boys, we'll show you where our boys were buried down here. And part of B Troop had already gone up, and A Troop were following. Okay, we're now going to go up.
Going round to the left here. Sorry. So we're going up round to
No,
the
no,
A
no.
and B.
A and B. B had split into two. Some of B had gone this way. The rest of B had gone this way. A Troop had followed along here, and we're going to go up behind B Troop. Yeah, we go up there.
Put this on your memory bank for A and B. What's happened? So stop there. We're going then.
We're going to see where
We're going to find out where Y and S Troop came.
Yeah.
So, there was a white arrow painted on that wall behind you. If you look behind you now, imagine that house wasn't there with its automatic lawnmower going backwards and forwards. That was an orchard full of apple trees. If you look at the picture Keith's showing, you see the apple tree on the right with the bird feeder hanging. On the right there's an apple tree with a bird feeder hanging. That's that apple tree. You want to look at the book, look at the picture of the book, that's the location of the burial ground. It's now her beautiful garden, but that was just an orchard. And I'm pretty certain, and I'm not an expert on how long an apple tree grows, but I'm pretty certain, looking at the way the trunk leans and the way the picture was of the tree then, that is the same tree. And I think that's a nice thought that maybe it was. Okay, so we're now going to go up, this is the worst bit, we've got to go up a hill. The hedge that was facing them as they came across the cornfield.
That's the hedge, Kath.
Sorry, I'll have to wait until they all turn up. Some walked past and fell out over what was going on.
Okay.
This is where the split occurred with Y and S Troop here, not down there. Right,
okay.
Anyway. 2 fields over is the waist-high cornfield that the boys were walking across. They cleared the first hedge and they came into another cornfield. And as they advanced across it, roughly around here was a hedge with barbed wire that they had to get over. And they got over it, and then they advanced. And again, all this is new, so I don't quite know
I think
but
where Shabir Farm is.
Shabir's
Yeah,
further
and
down.
they one half went round the back there.
No, not
or
at
here.
that point. I'm on about
No,
where George Davison fell. George
It must
fell
have been here.
somewhere in this
No,
corner here.
here.
And what they'd done is they got so far that they were being shot at by 6 forward defence posts by the Germans.
Yeah, 4.
So if you imagine this was a waist-high cornfield as well. Across this field, the commanders decided they'd had enough, and they started screaming, and they ran with their guns at waist high to get these guys that were shooting at them. And these guys said, "Blimey, we've had enough of this," and they retreated. But George Davidson sadly fell somewhere over there by the hedge. One of our men fell over there, and you'll have to look at the book to find the other positions of the men that died here.
Good.
Poor page. That's why he said when he saw the thing.
Dad, your dad and Simon's dad, we came across this field. Oh, I wish I knew this book, Keith. I wish I knew.
Who wrote it? Come on, Keith, tell us. You're going to sign these
We're
books.
waiting for the Kindle version, you know.
B troop. That's A
This
troop.
is earlier on.
It must have been earlier on, yeah, it was earlier on, so it's a bit before that. Thanks, Steve.
So it's here.
Ah, is that which troop is that?
We've got,
Which
we've got
page?
S
Which
troop.
page are we on, mate? Number
We're on page 22, 260.
Oh, I'm almost there. Look. There we go. Right. So there we go. So
Here.
so George. Yeah, just George. So George Davidson. He fell in this field just here, right? And when they got to this point and the Germans had retreated, they decided to split. And they're going to do a pincer movement. Y troop were going to go around that way, and S troop were going to come down here. And the plan was that Y troop would go round the back of Le Hamel, and the S troop with tank support would go up the middle road, house clearing as they went.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you come to this gap here, that's where Y troop split and went to the right, and S troop went down towards Le Hamel. So we'll walk along here now.
There's cars coming down here.
Is there? So this is Chabert's farm, at which point Y troop went that way and S troop went this way. And if you look at the stonework, you can see still shell marks where bullets were fired at this building, and the same on that corner up there, high up you can see, because there were snipers still, and a concern that, you know, they were going to get picked off as they came here.
Here's a picture of the farm. How
Here's
it
a
was.
picture of Chabert's farm as it was.
Up there was a German 8.8
It's in the book.
mobile.
Look, don't you?
Been put out of action.
Yeah.
That was at the top there.
Chabert.
Chabert.
Yeah.
Yes, no, I'm looking at it. It's faded.
Yeah, the roof is gone. Okay, so we're now going to... We can't follow Y Troop because it just goes behind all brand new houses and everything. So we can't go, but we know that Y Troop will meet up again with S Troop at the end of Le Hamel.
Have a turner in front, in the garden.
Monsieur le Président de l'UNC,